Hello and welcome to this e-training module. This is actually part 2 of a series of e-training videos looking at a site selection scenario using the spatial model editor. So in part 1 we actually looked at using the spatial modeler to set up the criteria for looking for locations that are within 150 meters of water, a fresh water source. And that are also in a forested area so that we can build under a forest canopy in this section. So here is the model we prepared in part 1 of the e-training series, basically bringing in a land cover classification and looking for a buffer distance of 150 meters, the locations that fall within that buffer distance of water, and that are a land cover class of forest canopy type. So that gave us those particular locations previously. So now we want to look at a digital elevation model. So we're going to drop a second raster input onto our canvas. Go ahead and double click that and navigate to where our data is stored. I'm going to select our digital elevation model, bring that in and click OK. That's our digital elevation model slope source. Now we were looking for locations that are on slopes less than 1 degree, so we need to calculate slope from the digital elevation model. The two types of slope operator, degree or percent slope. We actually want degree, so select that operator, drag and drop it onto the canvas. As usual, we then stream the data from the raster input into that particular operation. We're going to double click on the units port that's present on the degree slope operator. This is in case your input digital elevation model doesn't have a setting to define what the height units are for the digital numbers stored in the raster dataset. So your horizontal coordinate system, say, might be UTM in meters, but your heights might be measured in feet or centimeters or some other units. You can set that up so the raster dataset already has that defined, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to go ahead and say that the height values of my digital elevation model are to be interpreted as meters, so we can then use that to calculate the slope at any given location. And that's going to give us basically at every pixel location a measure of slope at those locations, but really all we're interested in is the locations where the slope is less than 1 degree. So we want to search on less than again. Let's go ahead and drag in the less than operator. Connect port 1, so we're going to say if the slope value is less than input 2, which is going to be 1 degree, we're going to output true or false. So if it is less than 1, it's going to give us a binary result of true, and if it's greater than or equal to 1, it's going to give us a false. So we now have one more criteria, basically our low slope locations. So now we want to have both sets of criteria, or all 3 criteria, be true. So we've already logical anded the water distance and forest canopy. Now we want to also say and the locations have to be on slopes less than 1 degree. And we can do that, we can either drag from the operators listing, or in this instance I'm going to select the existing logical and on my keyboard, do Control C to copy that, and then Control V to paste in an additional logical and. I'm going to disconnect my preview. Don't actually need to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to see that later on. And I'm going to connect those two conditionals. So now we've got another logical and, so all 3 conditions must be true, and that'll give us a true or false binary statement at the end of that stream of processing. Now, our last step now is to go ahead and create a new raster output file that holds those locations. So on the favorites listing, we're going to select raster output, drag and drop that onto our canvas, connect the binary port to raster in. I'm also going to connect up my preview, just in case I want to preview the model, check that I'm doing the processing correctly on the fly before I spend the time of writing an output file. I'm going to go ahead and double click my raster output operator, give it a file name, barracks locations. We're going to make sure that data type is unsigned 1 bit. We've just basically got binary data. It either is a suitable site or it is not. So we might as well also make that a file type of thematic. And we're going to make a no data value of 0. So zeros in my output binary are going to be set to be no data locations. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go ahead and save this model again. So I'm going to use the quick access toolbar this time. At top left, click the save icon. So we've saved our model. And then in the execute group of the spatial modeler tab, I'm going to click run. And that's going to go ahead and run this spatial model and produce the output file. So let's go ahead and start a new 2D view. I'm going to go back to the home tab, add a view, create a new 2D view. I'm going to go ahead and display my original land cover classification. And then over the top of that, I'm going to bring in the newly created barracks locations. It's on my recent list because I just created it. So I'm going to select it from the file recent list. Go ahead and display that on top. And you can start to see the black and white data showing the locations that are suitable. Let's go ahead and on the raster group of tabs, select table and show attributes. You can see we have a barracks image down here with 2 classes, 0 and 1. Set the opacity of the background to be 0 so we can see the other classes through. And we're going to right click in the color patch for the barracks locations and pick, say, any color that's going to stand out. Pick magenta from the pop-up list, and we can zoom in and see those particular locations. In the table of contents, we can help us identify those by turning that layer on and off so we can see where those locations might be. And that is the basis of performing our site selection. In part 3, I'll actually show you how to add attributes into the model so that rather than me having to do this manually of changing the colors on output, it'll be done as part of the spatial model for you. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope you watch some of the other e-training videos in this series. Thank you very much. Oh, before you go, actually, don't forget to save your model, just in case.